One reason for why we're shy about reporting on the corporal calibre of First Nations people before colonisation in Australia is that, well, there are many reasons, but one of them is that we'd be forced to draw a distinction between First Nations people before, or in the early days of colonisation, and those who were subsequently mustered into white society through no choice of their own, but thereby succumbed to the corrupting influence of the degenerate European lifestyle and diet. That's an invidious project, and it can be suspected of all kinds of racial wrong-headedness. I don't want to get caught in a discourse of idealising an objectified original Aborigine at the expense of today's mob, where the contemporary culture and people end up being stripped of their heritage. Also, maybe we should have some shame looking at those old photos that were never authorised by their subjects, as if an anthropological peep show where we gain visual pleasure from the innocent exposure that had an entirely different meaning in ancient Australia. First Nations people are also sensitive to representations of the dead, which is why I've decided not to reproduce any examples. I'm treading on eggshells for sure. Embarrassments compound, and there's always a risk that when we admire archival images of old way First Nations people in Australia, we're felt by implication to deprecate modern bodies who don't necessarily look like that. So the modern mob is framed as inauthentic, not the genuine tribal people from long ago whose memory enjoys cultural legitimacy because their original lifestyle wasn't adulterated by Europeans. We've got to avoid these risks of typecasting, but at the same time I feel that it's a mistake to ignore the valuable evidence from the patrimony and disregard the spiritual and physical prestige that remains in the ancestral past for fear of offending its heirs. It's been a leitmotif of my own journey, always to think of things in the past that we have limited access to today. It belongs very much to the speculation of European culture that it's full of stuff that we can't replicate today. The way music was made, poetry, paintings, architecture, cities. We too have trouble honouring the footprint of the people before us. And I think it's natural to wonder in what way the advantages of the past can be recovered in the present or the future. The First Nations heritage doesn't belong to me, but that doesn't mean that it shouldn't be instructive and inform the way white fellas see themselves today. At the risk of conforming to the archetype of white Aborigine, a part of me sees the old people as a role model. I don't think we could make a mistake by trying to be a bit more like them when they've shown the world how graceful an older body is capable of being.